Going live. Greetings. I'm Evan Swenson. I'm an author and a book publisher. I'm also a member of Author Masterminds, sponsors of Readers and Writers Book Club. Welcome to Readers and Writers Book Club. This is the worldwide online general membership meeting of Readers and Writers Book Club, rapidly becoming the book club destination for all readers of good books. Thanks for being here. I hope you'll find every reader is a friend and every author is approachable. Once again, welcome to Readers and Writers Book Club. Of course, we'll be conversing about books, authors, writing, and the magic and miracle of reading. And we'll have some fun as we award Readers and Writers Book Club branded door prizes available to all book club members. Okay, let's meet today's co-hosts. Okay, let's meet today's co-hosts. I think we're going to have some fun today with, well, I've never introduced anybody like this before, but anyway, today we're going to feature the three Amigos. That's going to be some fun. Be a little different. So anyway, let's talk. We've got Marianne Paul, Steve Levi, and Valerie Winans. That's the three Amigos. So let's talk to the three Amigos. Who wants to be first to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about? The three Amigos.
How you doing? I'm Steve Levi, and I'm here in Anchorage, Alaska. And don't ask about the weather outside because it's not pleasant. We specifically set up this the series of meetings, which will take place once a month, to talk to writers about coming up with new ways of writing. This is not a seminar for people who are just learning to write. This is a seminar. These are presentations for people who are looking for something new, something different, something unusual. And the Author Masterminds is a collection of people who are unusual. The books that we do are very unusual. I do Impossible Crimes. No one else in the country is doing that. An impossible crime is where the detective has to figure out how the crime was committed before he can go after the bad guys. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some different ideas and different ways that you as a writer can find unique ideas that you can use in your writing. And coming to you from Texas is Marianne Paul.
That would be me. I'm Marianne Paul. I'm America's Lady of Supernatural Thrillers and a wonderful and charter member of this wonderful group of Author Masterminds. And I don't know what exactly I'm supposed to do, except I'm launching right into, I guess, how and what is unique and what do I do to find ideas, unique ideas for my books. Is that right, Steve?
Right. I was going to do it first and then you can follow me. How's that?
You go, Guy.
Okay.
It's good to be
here. Valerie, introduce yourself and then I will start.
Okay, my name is Valerie Winans, and I am a writer for readers of all ages. And today I'm going to be talking about an emerging form of writing and the fastest growing genre. So if that keeps you on your tip of your toes there. And I am speaking to you from Traverse City, Michigan. As a Michigander, you hold up your hand and I'm right up here. Thanks.
Okay, whenever I write, whenever I start something new, I'm always looking for something different. I don't want to do what anyone else is doing. I don't want to come up with an idea that somebody else has. I try to find something new. And I'm always looking for new ideas. And one of the ways that I come up with new ideas is I go ahead and I get on eBay and I buy old scrapbooks. Or right here, for instance, because you can get them for about $15 and it costs you about $5 to get them sent to you. And you can't really see it from here, but you can see here is an entire person's life written up in newspaper articles, letters, photographs, other stuff like that. I can't get that from reading a regular newspaper. I can't get that from talking to somebody. But what I can do is I can get a snapshot of somebody's life. And even more important than that, I get a snapshot of an age, a month and year, where I can go back in and I can look at these newspaper articles and find things that are different. And if you do something, if you get scrapbooks from 100 years ago, with the stuff that you see in there is stuff that you will never see in a local paper. So one of the things that I like to do is try to go ahead and find ideas that are 100 years old, because no one else is trying to find ideas 100 years old. They may be 30 years, they may be 50 years, but not 100 years old. So if you're looking for some unique ideas, different approaches to writing or your subject, the first place I would look is 100 years ago. Look in the newspaper, and if you're lucky enough, you can get on eBay and you can buy yourself a scrapbook for a whole $15. Okay, Marianne, you're next.
I'm next. Okay, where do I get my unique ideas for supernatural thrillers? Well, I haven't gone scrapbook route, but I will give that a shot at some point. What I do is, it depends on when I'm starting and what I'm trying to write. And so literally I have several books that I have in my library that I use, and they're a little different. When I was writing Gorgon, the third in the series, I had to come up with who is a fallen angel and what do they do, and about demons and things. And so, ta-da, this book is called, Fallen Angels, the Watchers, and the Origins of Evil. It was a great book, and I'd sit at book signings and read it every time while I was waiting for people to come by. And I got a great, I ended up with Lilith out of this one, because Lilith is a story pre to the Bible that isn't in a Bible, but is all about a woman that was supposedly before Eve. So I got to take that and then I expand on those things. And this is one of my favorite books, although I cannot pronounce it really. It's one of the Denai languages, and it has amazing legends in it. And if you've read my books, you know that they have a legend in them. So in order to make those legends feel real, I take a book like that, I look at their legends, and then I create my own with that same feel. So that you have the Alaska legend feeling in it, but it isn't perverting any of the Alaska legends themselves. And if you want a book, I have one other book that I do that I love. Everybody's going to love this one, Witches and Witchcraft. Did I want to read this? No. But have I found it to be one of the most amazing reference books ever? Yeah, I have. When I came up with the nasty little creatures in Ingress, I started by reading about elementals, and then the Qumrandi were born in that series. So that's my research, plus a lot of online historical research that is the backdrop for where and when my stories happen.
So does that set the stage for me, Marianne?
I believe it does, Valerie.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I said that I was a writer for readers of all ages. I have written nonfiction and fiction. And so my next book is going to be a biography. So my challenge is how to put all these facts together and make it so somebody's going to want to read it. So creative nonfiction is an emerging form, a growing genre. And a man called Lee Gutkind wrote a book called You Can't Make This Stuff Up. And he says creative nonfiction does not mean inventing what didn't happen. Creative nonfiction is a true story well told. So I have 4 ideas about creative nonfiction. I'll define it. I'll give you some thoughts on writing that way and some examples of creative nonfiction writing. And I'll apply those tools to a project that I'm working on. So, you know that fiction is a story created by somebody's imagination. And nonfiction is a factual story, real events. And creative nonfiction is factual, but it tells the story in a way that makes you feel like you're reading fiction. So 4 thoughts that apply to writing creative nonfiction are, number 1, of course, the story must be true. Number 2, events must be related as accurately as possible. You have to do a lot of research because your credibility is on the line. It's nonfiction. And 3, descriptions of vivid scenes are critical to turn the reader from just looking at facts into experiencing what you're talking about. So Gutkind says that the scene is the foundation and the anchoring element of creative nonfiction. 4, reflection is important. The writer should step out of the narrative and place him or herself in the story to reflect on the story, to give lessons learned. Because if it's just a grouping of scenes, even though they're well developed and interesting, the reader may end up with nothing out of that. And so you have to kind of give them the lessons learned. That reflection is a critical part. It kind of ties it all together with a bow, even though your reflections may be interspersed throughout the story. So a good example of an author that writes creative nonfiction is Doris Kearns Goodwin. She wrote a book called A Team of Rivals it's a biography of Abraham Lincoln, written about his life prior to and during his presidency. And I can tell you, it's one of the few books that I've read twice. Another writer whom I admire and we can all connect with here is Robin Barefield. She's an Author Masterminds writer, and she writes stories based on actual events. Now, her books are fiction, but her newsletter is creative nonfiction. Great example of creative nonfiction. In the newsletter, she tells stories of crime and the great frontier. They're absolutely true, but she does it in a way that keeps the writer interested and waiting for her reflection. So this is a skill I want to hone because, as I said, I'm writing this biography of this really great man, and it needs to be nonfiction. And at the same time, I want my audience to know, my readers to know more than just a list of facts about this amazing man. I want them to kind of experience what he saw and feel what he felt as much as possible. So the biography, part of the biography involves him traveling to California in 1849 on the Overland Trail. So I've been reading every journal, every book I can find on the Overland Trail and what people experienced there. And when I tell my story, I want to put my reader on that trail. I want them to feel the dust in their throats, the heat, the cold, the pain of loss. As I'm traveling the journey and learning about this outstanding American, I've had several moments of insight into the heart of the man that I'm going to use in those points of reflection as I tell the story. So to bring it all together, creative nonfiction is an emerging genre, fastest growing in our line of work here. We defined creative nonfiction, we considered 4 bullet points, and we gave examples of writing in that genre and how I will apply them in my own life. So thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm. One of the blessings of creative nonfiction is if you're doing something like, say, a crime, if you're the police or the court, you can only bring so many things before the court. It has to be true. And if it doesn't help your case, you don't bring it forward. Creative nonfiction, you can wander into the guy's mind and say, I hope they don't discover that da-da-da-da. Or you can bring out things that it's clearly obvious to anybody that this is what happened, but we can't take it to court is because we can't prove it. But being a person in the street, you're looking at this and saying, look, it looks pretty much like he did it. So that gives you have some flexibility there as a writer to be able to go ahead and include that.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. I have a couple of things here. One is Karen Chandler says, "Yay, Michigan." So I thought you'd like that.
Mhm.
Rebecca Wetzler asked me, "Do you have nightmares after the research I do?" I know, this is going to be so sad. I don't. I just don't. And I've had a lot of people saying they can't sleep after after they read my books. So I don't know if it's because I'm putting it down in the book and it's all out of my head. But sometimes I do get pretty creepy feelings when I'm reading some of it, especially when I'm reading about fallen angels and demons. That kind of stuff just gives me the creeps. So that was a great question. And Karen Chandler once again said good information for everything that's been said, I guess. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you.
Well, all of us are trying to reach beyond ourselves, all in different ways, because it is really easy for me to sit down and read about all of the facts, and I read everything in a scrapbook and look at all of the pictures, but I still have to create the story. And if you're just going to go ahead and repeat the stuff that you saw, you're really not doing anything at all. You're not adding to, culture. What you have to do is you have to leap beyond that, and you have to go ahead and say that, look, this is unique. This is different, because if it isn't different, you shouldn't be writing about it. This is one of the problems in what's called genre. Genre is where you talk about, imagine going to a bookstore and you go to the mystery section, and in the mystery section, everything is a murder. Writing a murder mystery really doesn't help literature at all. All you're doing is, reinventing the wheel. Try something different, try something unique. And that's why it's important to come up with something different, come up with a new idea, a new concept, a new approach. And that is what Author Masterminds is doing, and all of the different authors. What we are doing is offering a different view of what used to be called genre.
I have a question for you three amigos. Curious, you invited Carl Douglas and Victoria here. You must have done that for a purpose. Why did you invite them to your meeting?
Victoria writes different types of literature. I don't read types of literature about horses until I had met Victoria. And so now what happens is every time I see a horse or an article on a horse or something like that, I go, well, maybe I should take a look at it. So she has expanded my horizon, so to speak, because before I never would have read anything about horses. And Valerie writes about dogs. Every once in a while, I see something on a dog and I'll read it. And having a puppy here, I can tell you I've got a lot of stories about what a puppy can do. But Victoria and Valerie, both important to me, is because they're pulling my mind to places under normal circumstances I wouldn't thinking about going.
And Carl's here. We feel like our forum, when we're meeting, is open to other people to come join us. So to have Carl here is wonderful, along with Victoria, because they are both amazing writers. But I would love to have people that are trying to write also join us. I'm just saying that right now. And Carl has written so many books, I've lost count. So he writes amazingly real fiction, especially about the political realm. And so if Victoria and or Carl would like to give us some of their ideas about how their writing is unique and what they do to make it unique, that would be wonderful to listen to right now. What do you think?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Carl, you're up.
Ladies first.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Well, I've had Arabian horses for over 35 years, and because I've been exposed to them and people who love them, it wasn't a stretch to begin to write about them. And a lot of our stories really begin with a kernel of truth, like Valerie was talking about. You hear a story, and all of a sudden it just becomes a book. I hear a story about a young person, or I hear a story about a horse. I mishmash them together and come up with something new and different. But I know Nancy and I are the first writers since Walter Farley to ever feature Arabian horses in a series. And he did that in the 1940s. So it's about time. And I just love what I do because I get to talk to so many people, and talking to people, researching some of the different disciplines and some of the other stuff that we do with our horses has been mind expanding, to say the least, and a lot of fun. On top of that, I've met so many wonderful people.
Well, don't you think yours is unique? Because I've read your book, one of them at least, and I love your writing, just saying. But also yours, if we're talking about unique, it's because you actually have the horses' emotions in there as well as the people's.
Oh,
That's how I see it. And
well,
that's a unique way to look at to me, to look at a writing of a book.
well, you know, having been around them for 35 years, I know, as well as I'm sitting here today, that they speak to each other. They speak to other animals. They talk. I may not hear it in the usual way, but so it was actually a really good way to bring out part of the story that I wouldn't have been able to do through the human element, bringing out the backgrounds and some of the other stuff by the animal communication was so much fun. And I spoke with an animal communicator on one of the books, and she was thrilled with it because I sent her excerpts of the book and she said, "This is so right on." It's so right. This is what they do. So it was pretty fun. And writing the dialogue for the animal communication is the most fun thing in the world. And Valerie's done that. So don't you agree?
Absolutely. I was just going to say, you do it so well, Victoria, because it is believable.
Yeah.
Fiction,
Exactly.
but it's very, very, you feel like you're there. It's very believable.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it so enticing, I think.
Well, I'd heard a lot of people have problems with animals speaking, but you know, having been around these guys for this long, I know they do. And dogs do too, and so do cats. Good.
I agree. I agree.
I've got
Before we go on, I have a couple of, oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I have a couple of things to say, and there's people making comments over here, which is so wonderful. Someone said hello from Delaware. She's just glad to meet us. We're glad to meet you too, Tracy. I think it's Wyrick or Weirwick. Y'all got to say, everybody say hello to Tracy.
Hello,
Tracy.
And then let's see, gosh, there's so many that I've gotten, they've gone way up and I have to go look. And then Joanna Onakik, I think is how we pronounce her name. She's here and she says she is here from St. Louis. I never knew where she was from. I've seen her and talked to her or chatted with her before. Tracy says, and everybody, she is an avid animal lover. And she has 6 cats and a dog, and she fosters and rescues. She would love the books on the dogs and the cats. I know it. And Tracy, if you like supernatural thrillers, mine does have BC, the black cat, who's in there. And then later on, you'll find out there's some couple of Shelties that join the crowd. And Karen Chandler says she loves your writing on animals. And Tracy is saying, yes, they do speak. I think that's what she's saying.
Yeah.
And Karen Chandler agrees. She believes her dogs talk. I'm on record saying, I know my dogs understand me and I know they can tell me exactly what they want. And my cats, they do the same thing, although they're a little more precarious about it. So
well, I'm just waiting for the 21-year-old tiger to show up, because not only does he speak, but he's loud.
yeah, I know. So are mine. And Tracy, thank you. She just said, yes, she would. She does love supernatural thrillers. Oh, yay.
So did I. It was nuts. You know, yours was the first one that I ever read. And I started reading it and I sat glued till I got to the end. And I thought, no, it can't be over.
Thank Thank you. You know, you can hear my dogs in the background. I'm really sorry, everybody. That would be the Shelties. Shelties were born to bark. Just saying.
Yeah, well, and I just want to let you know that I have to read your stuff early in the morning because I can't read it late in the evening because it will cost me problems.
I'm sorry.
You know, and Victoria, you know, there's quite a bit of history of horses when it comes to the American West, specifically with the cavalry. And I don't know if you've taken a look at that because there was one survivor of the Custer's Last Stand, and it was a horse, and the horse's name was Comanche. And there's been quite a bit of newspaper articles on Comanche, but I can't ever remember any kind of a story or novel like that I'd ever seen on Comanche.
No, I don't
And
think so.
especially with the Buffalo Soldiers. Nobody has done anything on the Buffalo Soldiers and their horses.
Well, didn't we have somebody we used to have that passed away? Unfortunately, I really loved Olin. Didn't he write about Buffalo Soldiers?
A Buffalo Soldier is a black soldier. After the true Buffalo Soldiers at the end of the Civil War, those blacks that came from the South couldn't go home. And so what they did is they stayed in the army and they went west. By watching John Wayne movies, you'd think that all of the soldiers and the cavalry in the West were white. They're not. About 40% were black.
Right.
And believe it or not, most of the soldiers in Alaska during the Alaska Gold Rush were also black.
Now, I didn't know that. Okay. Now, Kim Reynolds just echoed our friend Steve and said, just don't read her books at night. Thanks, Kim. We haven't heard from Mr. Carl yet. Do you think he's ready?
Oh, you're up.
Now I'm ready.
Hi, Carl.
Okay, now I got to start with a few comments and give a blanket set of apologies. But I grew up on a horse, and I've walked funny ever since. But I got to tell you, I talk to the horses and sometimes use a lot of effective language, but I don't remember a horse ever talking to me. And I worked in a mental hospital for a while as a medical officer, and I knew people there who talked back and forth to the radiators. So I've always been a little suspicious of that kind of thing. I've also always been a storyteller. I used to tell stories to my angel mother, who loved to hear what went on in the day. Most of what went on in the day had nothing to do with reality. I made up all kinds of stuff, and the thing was, I believed it all. And she used to laugh until I couldn't go on, and I'd get mad at her because she was interrupting and interfering. Now, where I come to my books was I've always loved history, and even as a little boy, I was reading the history of Western heroes and all that sort of thing. But it really took off when I went to Stanford. I was a hick, and I had gone to a rural school, and it's some sort of aberrant thing that I got into Stanford. I did not know that you should apply to more than one school. And, my dad had died quite a while ago, and so I was pretty much on my own or helping my family. And I just didn't have anybody to talk to. Anyway, I got in, and most of Stanford was extremely hard, I have to admit. But one thing was just a pleasure, and that was the history of Western civilizations. I developed a real love for history. But my kind of history it developed was the idea of turning over the rocks and checking out the bugs and worms that are underneath. So as an example, I wrote a book called The Charlemagne Murders. And, excuse me, that is a book that I would wager that not more than 3 or 4 people that you ever meet have ever heard of it. The Charlemagne division was an SS division made up entirely of Frenchmen. To give you an idea of what they were like, They were the last Germans standing in the final battle, the Battle of Berlin. Many of them were machine gunned to death by their French friends, former friends. Anyway, I wrote a book talking about them, using the history, but putting you, the reader, in the situation. And I view my role as a writer as God. I am in the scene, pulling the strings. I'm also in there observing, but you don't know that I'm there. I want you to feel like you're there. So I start you out joining these poor devils who are in gulags in the far north, being punished by the Russians because they were Nazi Waffen-SS. And then their their worm turns, and they begin picking off the German generals, the American generals, the French generals, the Odessa members, which are Germans who went through the rat line and got to Argentina. And you learn from that as much factual information as I can do, but you also are into their thoughts and into their actions. So I don't tie myself to history. I allow myself, as God, to make the story go. You would be amazed to know that the Americans army, treated the German POWs abysmally. They hated them, and they took their hatred out on them. As an example, they forced those Germans to sleep in little holes about the size of what a coyote makes, or you can tell where I'm from. I'm not from the east where they say coyote, but I'm from the west where it's a coyote. Anyway, these little holes in the ground, not tunnels, but just kind of a cup full of dirt. And they suffered and suffered, but they were the ones who collected the treasures from Hitler's treasure thieves. And then life catches up with them. But that's the kind of thing that I like to look at, something I didn't know about. Somebody taught me about it. And I looked it up, and sure enough, there was a story. My stories require quite a bit of detail because I like to share the real history sort of alongside with the history that I've made up and make them wed together legitimately. Many of the things that I talk about, and I talk about Vietnam because that was my war, and a lot of things I knew that went on there, and people don't like to hear about. In fact, for 20 years or so, nobody talked about it. And then we kind of got repatriated, and you could talk about it. And I talk about a CIA program called the Phoenix program. And if you don't know anything about that, let me suggest that you just look up that online. You will be astounded what your country did. Anyway, that's the kind of things that I do. I'm something of an iconoclast. I wanted to just end with a note. I am really proud and pleased to be part of the author masterminds. That's what they are. They're all different from me. There's one who loves and writes with affection about horses. It's a kind of affection I don't really feel. There's people who are clever. Steve Levi is clever. He comes up with the most remarkable, fun things to read. I can't write poetry, and I can't do clever. So I have great respect for the people who with whom I work and who teach me, and I appreciate them. Let me just recommend that you look up Author Masterminds and Readers and Writers Book Club, or just publications consultants, and find out what's available. Pretty much every reasonable genre is covered there. We all know that you don't have a pornograph, so there's no pornography. But other than that, you can find pretty much anything you want. Anyway, I appreciate having a chance to talk.
Well, there's some people over on the chat that have been having a great chat about the World War II and Vietnam War while you were talking. Tracy Werrick and Karen Chandler both have had, one had a father and a grandfather. One was in World War II, the other was in the Vietnam War. And Karen Chandler is talking about her husband's uncle was a POW in World War II. You might want to get in contact with these people, because you could write some great stuff about that. I asked Karen if she, or Tracy, if she was a writer, but she's not. But you know, she's really an interesting lady. You might want to read the comments later.
Well, if I don't get too old, I'll look into that. Right now, I've got another 20 years worth of writing, and I'll try to work that in.
Yeah, they can all contact, anybody can contact us through Author Masterminds. Just authormasterminds.com, look for our picture, and then there's a link there to go ahead and send us an email.
And we'll be happy to talk to you.
We'd love to talk to anybody who'd like to talk to us. And so it's literally authormasterminds.com, if just for everybody to know. And just click on the picture. All of us have our picture there and our names, and you can go directly to our site within Author Masterminds. And he's right, you can just email us or get a hold of us from there.
Right. I love to hear from readers.
I
Me
do too.
too.
Yes.
I also love to hear from other writers, because I know what they're going through. And that's why I like what we're doing, to help other writers have tips too, you know,
Right.
so that they can not feel like they're all alone out there. I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes I have felt like I was all alone at one point in time.
Anytime somebody wants to send me an original idea, I'm more than happy to listen.
You're so funny.
Anybody got horse stories? I am all ears.
Oh, I'm all about supernatural stories. So anybody who's got those, I'd love them.
Do it in the morning, though. Do it in the morning.
Oh, you are so funny. I guess I don't usually talk about this here, but I have a podcast that's called Real Ghost Chatter, and I interview people who have had supernatural experiences. And I actually read Raven's Cove on it, and I have done a few other things. But if you have a supernatural experience, whoever might be listening, please either email me or put it in the comments, and I'll find a way to get with you so that we can talk about that. Sorry, guys. I hope that wasn't inappropriate.
Oh, no, I think
no.
that was great. I think that this is a good time for us to say that the three amigos are going to do this once a month, every month, the third Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Then the worldwide meeting of the Readers and Writers Book Club is the fourth Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So just keep those Tuesdays, and we'll be coming back with more hints, tips, inspirations for writers.
And if you have anything that you specifically want us to talk about, shoot us an email. We're coming up
Absolutely.
with the schedule and the concept, so we don't have any problem at all, you know, taking care of your needs and wishes and your questions.
You can also, and I'll make an offer, you can also send things and argue with me. I have opinions on pretty much everything, but I'm full of.
You're so funny, Carl. But he's not being
about
funny. He
Vietnam.
likes to argue.
And I can sit on both sides of the fence and argue it with you. So feel free, and let's enjoy the experience. You know, this is a crappy time, and we're all stuck home. It's a good time to think and to read, and you can find people who might disagree with you. I'm not going to discuss politics, because I think we're past Vietnam long enough that we can have even an argument without wanting to do each other bodily harm. So I'm happy to do it with you.
Okay, Evan, do you have any closing comments?
I have a couple of I have comments over here if you, before
Okay,
we
well, go
close.
ahead. Let's hear them.
Okay, well, it's from Tracy Wyrick. I don't know how to pronounce your name, Tracy. I'm sorry. But she said how to hear new authors talk about their books, and all of your new authors are new authors to me. I've always been interested in looking for new information and genres. And then I told her thank you because I was glad she was here, and she was so sweet. Tracy, you are so sweet. She said, I never felt more welcome in my life. You were awesome. Thank you. I wanted you all to hear
I like that. Thank you.
Oh, I know. It made me feel so good. And then Kat Saleh, S-Z-A-L-A-Y, Zaley, said, thank you, Evan Swenson, for something. So you're wonderful, Evan. And then Joanna Nick says, thanks for the comments. She used to have cats and dogs. She can't right now. She's in a condo, so I felt bad. I understand how that would feel.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
Marianne, you're muted.
You're muted, Marianne. Marianne, you're muted. I know.
right.
I was just saying thanks because all these things were very nice.
Okay.
This has been an unusual experience for me, maybe even unique. Usually when we have an event like this, I'm the one that's kind of in charge and I kind of lead the discussion. But this has been wonderful. I just been sitting back, enjoying it. And all of a sudden I realized that I was enjoying it and I was a spectator of listening to your stories and how you work, and particularly the relationship that you have with each other and the support and strength that you give each other and the compliments. I think that's the thing that came across to me, at least more than anything else, is the support, camaraderie. I don't know how to put it in words, more of a feeling. Is that how you each feel about each other, or is that just me?
We're a unique group of writers and friends.
Yes.
I agree with
We
that.
all are completely different points of view, different kinds of writing, but we all get along, and we're all looking to go ahead and explore new concepts, new ideas, and new ways of presenting them. And that makes us an odd, unusual group.
Yes, we are that.
I think pretty darn spread out too, you know.
We
don't
are
live in the
spread
same
out.
town.
I think the value of the group really is our eclecticness. Is that a word? We have so many, if you go to author masterminds, there's so many different things to choose from. And I think that we support each other, we respect each other. And I think that shows when we come together. And you know, my favorite little quip is teamwork makes the dream work.
We just love you. She's our little motivational speaker. Go Val.
She's the cheerleader. Yay.
Yeah, she is. We have an amazing group of people. I just feel so blessed when we get together and talk, and I get energy from every one of you guys, you know, when we're talking and throwing around ideas. Evan, is there something people are supposed to do for whatever this drawing is?
No, it would have been in the background, and I'll talk about that once that you three amigos decide that you've participated as long as you would like. I guess Steve's going to have a closing remark, as it were, and after that, why then I just will talk about the drawing and the prizes, and then we'll end the meeting.
You know, in a closing remark, so the most important thing, particularly if you're a reader, you do not realize that we are entering a golden age of literature. Because 10 years ago, the big publishers only published those books that they thought would sell. What has happened now is that anybody can write a book and they can get it onto the internet. So books that never, ever had a chance with the big publishers are now available. And all you have to do if you're a reader is find those books. You know, author masterminds, if whatever it is you're looking for, give us a shot, because we're all different and we're the kind of writers that the big publishers would never have touched. So what happens is, if you are looking for an interesting book, take a look at Author Mastermind. The most important thing out of that's my dog is barking. Most important thing that we want to get with these meetings is to try to reach out to you and tell you, look, write different, write original, come up with new ideas, new approaches, because that is where the future is. The future is coming up with different, coming up with unique, coming up with unusual and odd. That's very odd, because 20 years ago, if you had written books like that, they would have gone no place. Now they're on their way. And now I'm finished, Evan. It's up to you.
Well, can I real quickly, now I got a couple of more comments. Tracy says she will definitely be back for more episodes. She thought this was a lot of fun. That makes me feel good. I was having fun too. And Joanna says she tries to do some writings, so she appreciates hearing the tips. Well, I say then this is a great place for you to be with the three amigos, Joanna, because this is just one of many tips we're going to be able to give. And we'd love to have you on our other meeting too. And Tracy, if you want to be there, come along, because I'd love to hear from you again. You're just a kick. So thank you.
We will see you in 3 weeks on the 3rd Tuesday of next month.
And I think that maybe, did we say that's the 16th?
Yes, I think it is.
I think it's the 16th, and it's 6 o'clock Eastern time.
Well, thank you, three amigos, Carl and Victoria. Would it be fair if I said on this forum that you would welcome other writers into author masterminds that aren't currently members? Could others join the author masterminds group?
You mean the one that we have? Of course they can, but they have to talk to Evan first.
Yeah.
We're open to people. You just better be able to handle all of us crazy ones. Yeah.
As long as you're different. That's the magic.
Yeah.
That's the magic word to use when you're talking about author masterminds. Different. Unusual.
Well, encouraging people, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
You mean like a unicorn or something like that?
Hey, that's part horse.
So that's
Yeah,
Victoria's
and I bet
field. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for what you're doing. And I know that there's some readers out there that will experience your camaraderie and your support of each other. They'll go to author masterminds, they'll learn about you. And then they may not be buying one of your books right now because they're just getting to know you. But when the opportunity comes up, when they think, oh yeah, Uncle Henry's got a birthday, Aunt Martha's whatever it is, let's give them a book. And where to go? Author masterminds, because that's where they can find the really unique, and then they can have a personal experience with that book, and they can take Uncle Henry can say, I know that author. I've met them. I've talked with them. And if they want an autographed copy, why, of course, they can have an autographed copy. And that brings up today's prize is a copy of each one of the three amigos books, their latest book. And so the author, this forum is for the Readers and Writers Book Club people who are members of Readers and Writers Book Club. And so the drawing is for the prizes is for Readers and Writers Book Club members. Now, Jen Rodriguez, who handles all this technical stuff on that, she's already got the raffle things going the way they should, and she'll be posting the winners on the Readers and Writers Book Club group as soon as she has those determined, and then we will arrange with the authors to give their signature so that the winners can have that book. And then maybe we could like to hear from them too about how they like that
On
book.
Zoom.
So anyway, we will again, thank you for being here, both authors and readers, those on Facebook group and those here on this group. And we'll just invite you to come back on the 16th with the three Amigos. The following week, same time, where we'll be here with Readers and Writers worldwide meeting, general membership meeting. But in the meantime, we'd invite you to just keep in touch.